Hello, and welcome back to Therapist Plays Fran Bow. All right, I have sufficiently recovered from the near tragedy of the last episode of losing Mr. Midnight, who was sort of in on the joke. It's very funny, isn't it? Using my trauma to surprise me with something really great. Oh, I love him so much I could squeeze him to death. Luckily, Fran will bounce back from this, as will we. And, well, her ability to do that and how much I think this little birthday event means to her, could mean to her, is an important part of the discussion that I want to have in today's episode. However, we are in the middle of another crisis, but whatever it is, we've already been through the worst, so we're ready to face it. Okay, let's try and find out what is going on here. Mr. Edward, what's the crisis? I need your help. I can't help you now, Fran. I have to concentrate on driving the machine. Can't find it. But, sir, I can't find the Kamala. That's because it's hiding. Go into the ultra-reality. Oh, yes. Take your pills, Fran, says Mr. Edward, your new friend. You know, everything being a bit of a reflection of Fran's imagination, I can imagine myself, inventing a character like Edward, who, if you're all the way in the it's all in her mind camp of the interpretation of the story, is there to, like, give her an additional reason to take the pills. Like a parent saying, you know, you've got to eat these vitamins. They will supercharge your abilities to play or whatever, right? But in this case, they supercharge our visibility of scary, fleshy death stuff. And creatures that are afraid of water and feast on trauma. So let's go find them. So far, no luck finding the Kamala. Just the robot rabbit. Yeah, I don't see them at all. Maybe in the lab. Aha! There it is. There you are, you bad thing. You're destroying our ship. Edward said you're dirty, and I have to clean you up with water. But where to get water? Well, that spout on the top. Probably. Do I still have the bucket? Yes. Okay, then I can collect the water with it, perhaps. Can I just, like... Yes! Okay. Water is in the bucket. Be prepared to be vaporized, you bad thing. She's even so polite when she's talking to a literal trauma monster. Take that, you trauma ghost. Oh, don't run away. Where are you going? Well, let's track him down, Fran. Don't let him get away with this. Okay, all we have to do is blast him from this thing. But maybe... it needs to be... Okay, now we can blast him over there. We can blast him any which way. It doesn't matter to me. Anywhere you go, you're getting blasted. I think I finally got rid of the Kamala. I'm the best. I should go back to Edward. You are, Fran. You really are. Good job. Okay, Edward. The Kamala is gone. Edward, sir, we did it. The Kamala is gone. It's gone, yes. But it's too late, dear. I can't take you home. What? We're going down. No, please. Don't tell me this. It's not fair. Not fair. Oh. No. I will always take care of you, my dear. Oh. And the ship kept going down until it crashed. Everything was destroyed. What? The end. What? But that's a very sad ending, Edward. Tell me another story, please. All right. This is the story of Fran Bow and me. When she promised never to forget me, or about the magic of everything. I promise, Edward, I'll never forget you. Good. Now it's time to sleep. Now, expect me in your dreams, my friend. I'm tucking the little kitty in as well. Mr. Midnight loves to be tucked in. Chapter 4, Part 2. Doctor's Prescription. I hope that's not the end of Itward, as far as we see him. Itward? Oh, Kitty, we're alive. We survived the crash. Oh dear, yes, we're alive. But Itward is gone. But he brought us home. We're just outside of town, Fran. I can smell it. Are you sure, Kitty? Are we already home? I thought you'd be happier about this. What is it? It's just that I wonder where Itward is. I wish I could say goodbye. Maybe you can take the medicine to see him again. Everybody's pushing lots and lots of duotine on us lately. It's kind of strange. Yes, Kitty, but I took all of the pills already. See, the bottle is empty. We've taken so much duotine that we've emptied it. There's just no more duotine left. Anyway, let's go home. Maybe Itward will come see me someday. Okay, no more ultra reality. Not such a bad thing in my mind. I think the ultra reality kind of sucks. I don't really want to see trauma ghosts or interact with nasty fleshy things. I like staying in reality with my talking kitty, where things just make sense. And this scene as well, like, I could really see why this game has such a divisive debate around its interpretation. Because it does really lay out breadcrumbs for you in either direction. It could very easily take this as, oh, well, Fran was just riding her bike, the flying machine, through the woods, and she crashed it, and her imaginary friend is gone. And this is all in her mind, and she just embiggens things with her imagination. I am not in that camp, personally, myself. I don't find the suspension of disbelief around fantastical things all that hard for my mind to go there, nor do I really think it is to be interpreted literally, as in everything we see is exactly as it is, all of the fantasy elements and everything. And my basis for that is all of the psychological dynamics that I've already discussed about how trauma can truly affect perception and memory and cognitive functioning and so many other things. They are what I would expect from someone like Fran, a tendency to dissociate during difficult things, to use her imagination to protect vulnerable parts of herself, to personify inanimate things and non-living organic things. Like, these are not out of the realm of what I would expect from a trauma experience. But as a person who just enjoys narrative, like when I watch Return to Oz or something, yeah, the opening scene suggests that Dorothy imagined Oz and she was in a fit of psychosis. And like, I just think that's an incredibly lame story. Like, regardless of whether it's believable or not, that someone could come up with all of this stuff, I just think that that's a lame story. Like, I'm going to show you 90% of something that is not happening, all under the basis of saying, look how badly someone's mind can get messed up. And so, like, what, 5% of the story is real and the rest is imaginary? Like, that's just a lame fucking story to me. So I choose to believe and interpret a hybrid of these things. And the fiction supports that Fran's imagination can create things, that she can create someone like Itward. He exists because she exists and because she imagined him. That she literally could just be with her bicycle in the woods, and also when she was riding it, she could have been transported in a flying machine. Red bicycle. Is this Itward's bicycle or mine? Anyway, it's broken, so I can't ride it. I would need Itward to fix it. He had a lot of tools, but he's gone. He is, Fran, but just for now. He'll come to you someday in your dreams. What does Mr. Midnight think of this? Wow, Mr. Midnight, do you see the moon? It's huge. Yes, I see it. Our home is in that direction too. Okay, well, I certainly don't expect to just walk our silly little self home at this point without some other interruption. But I think this is the best time to bring this up before we get into the next scene, which is why the interactions with Itward and the birthday and just everything that we've been through so far, I think, is really meaningful as a representation for healing from trauma. Now, I'm going to throw out a term that I'm willing to bet a lot of you have never heard before, and I base that on the fact that I never heard this term in my 8 years of psychological study, between 4 years of undergrad and 4 years of master's. Never heard it, okay? Only came upon it in continuing education and some specialized trainings that I've taken after the fact. So we already know about PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. I take some issue with the fact that we call this a disorder because the symptoms that this describes are the correct and expected biological, neurological, and psychological and emotional responses to a traumatic experience. Like, disorder makes me think that it is something unexpected, like it is not functioning as expected. But someone being abused and then having a high sensitivity to new relationships, this does not seem like disorderly to me. It's not ideal, but it is not like some unexpected, unexplainable thing. Like, there's a very tangible relationship between that symptom and their experience. So disorder, I don't know. I didn't write the DSM. Okay, we know this term though. The term that I'm wondering how many people have heard is PTG, which is post-traumatic growth. If post-traumatic stress describes the negative outcomes of trauma on a person, post-traumatic growth describes the opportunities for positive development that only become available because of a traumatic experience. What this is describing is a unique and specific kind of strengthening of certain elements of a person that are the direct result of having gone through and overcoming a trauma. That is to say, they would not occur without the trauma having been experienced. Things like a strengthening of our ability to overcome stressful events, a deepening of our relationships when they survive, the increased sensitivity to interpersonal safety that come from a trauma, a greater appreciation for life if someone survives something life-threatening, that special kind of gratitude. Those are some of the things that have shown up in the research on post-traumatic growth, which really tries to understand what causes people to be healthy, even though they have experienced very difficult things. And if you know anything about how research, especially psychological research, is conducted, some of the best studies to explain individual differences are done on like twins, which is kind of curious that they have like a twin character in this game. But basically like longitudinal studies that take place over a long time, looking at two people with near same sociological and biological starting points, that can start to narrow down what the exact effects are of something being studied. For example, if one of those twins develops a severe psychological or physical ailment throughout their life, we know it's not because of certain base things that they both share, like their DNA and perhaps their living environment if they actually grew up together. And some of the most compelling research on post-traumatic growth looks at things like the Holocaust, for example, where you have a massive amount of people experiencing a very similar kind of trauma, and then trying to understand why in the aftermath of an event like that, some people seemed to recover or develop a kind of growth after these traumas, and some people did not. It's not quite the same as a twin study, but that is another way to sort of try to rule out some differences. And like, that's the fundamental question here. Why, if two people go through the same trauma, do some bounce back a little more easily? And why do some people, in fact, seem to actually grow from this? That's what this is describing. So this is not a perspective that's like, well, oh, you just learned to smell the roses and that makes everything bad you went through fine. That's not this at all. Post-traumatic stress and post-traumatic growth can actually take place, and often do, at the exact same time. Fran is right now, as she has throughout the entire game, experiencing post-traumatic stress. We see it in the way that she has a distrust for new people. She is experiencing that kind of cognitive fatigue that we discussed when she was in Ethersta. Like, she's actually confused all the time. We see it in some of the visuals on Duotine and not. I'm thinking of the last one we saw with Fran and her eyes sort of splayed out in front of her, in seeing herself as a carcass being sort of feasted on by these like Kamala trauma ghosts, right? Like, these are the kinds of manifestations of her stress, her post-traumatic stress, that are occurring. And also, at the exact same time, there are elements of post-traumatic growth occurring. When she sees that visual of herself with all the eyes, what does she say? I forgot to give myself some love. There is a recognition of the special and important nature of loving oneself that is only there because of this. Post-traumatic growth is describing those special characteristics about someone that only occur for them because they've been through a trauma. And you really have to think about this with some nuance. Otherwise, you end up thinking that the argument here is that going through struggles is somehow good for you because that gives you a greater appreciation for life. That's not really what this is about. This is just an objective observation that that appreciation that Fran has for self-love is only there because of the trauma she's gone through. That's not to say that it was worth it. It doesn't put a marker on like whether a trauma was justified or if the quantified amount of suffering is worth the quantified amount of appreciation. Like, it's not about that at all. It's literally just saying, okay, because this person went through this trauma and they are developing in this some positive directions, you can only attribute them to the fact that they have gone through this trauma. That is the perspective that I'm leaning on when I talk about things like Midnight Magic, right? The pathologic approach to therapy is looking at post-traumatic stress disorder and saying, okay, this person has negative symptoms as a result of a trauma, and they do need to be addressed. Sometimes it's a medical intervention. Certain medications can help with hallucinations and anxiety, and sometimes it's psychological. Cognitive behavioral interventions, they can improve results for reducing ambient triggers and the kinds of negative symptoms that do present themselves from this. They are expected. Like I said, I don't know if I'd really call them disorderly, but they are also unwanted. That can happen at the same time as developing a SRR or a GRR, which is all of this, right? Midnight Magic is a skill that Fran has only because she lost her parents and she went through the asylum and she had to break out and all of these things. It's not about whether those are fair trades for having an SRR. It just is what it is. Like, that's why the therapeutic process is just saying, okay, you did suffer greatly and there are negative symptoms from that. Let's treat those this way. And also, let's not skip out on making sure we capture and facilitate post-traumatic growth from this. And so you're doing that whole process of saying, okay, well, how do we detect where growth is actually occurring? That's the scales. We know that because of the scales. She can say it was at a 9 and it came down to a 5 or whatever. I mentioned in a short that you don't have to use numbers necessarily. Some people might want to use colors and say that, oh, it was red and it became very blue and whatever. Any kind of scale works, right? But it's the person being able to describe a situation was bad for me or a feeling was bad for me and it improved. How? Let's try to understand what occurred to make that change possible. Can we operationalize those steps? And when you do that, when you operationalize and you go through in a sequence like that, it helps to reattach that memory, which tends to get very foggy and blurred in a trauma narrative. And then you're doing that consolidation process so that the person can step away from the traumatic moment, step away from the kinds of triggering discussions that will happen when you just talk about the trauma anymore. You'll notice that after you define what Midnight Magic is and you consolidate it, we can move on from the asylum. Now we're talking about, how does midnight magic show up in your day-to-day life? How did it show up in Athersta? How is it showing up right now? Post-traumatic growth is very forward-looking because it's almost not all that interested in what the trauma was or like how badly it's affecting you. That's just like a different direction. These can happen at the same time. They're happening at the same time for Fran. They happen at the same time for most people. Not everyone will experience post-traumatic growth. Some people don't just naturally get better. That's why that research that I was talking about is so valuable, because some people just sort of naturally are more resilient than others, and we're still understanding why. But in the absence of that natural resilience, there's therapeutic processes that we've developed that are there to facilitate this post-traumatic growth and make sure that we're not just re-experiencing the suffering of our traumas. So when you consider all of that, things like meeting Itward, this parental-like but fun still figure, who showed to Fran that relationships with a maturity hierarchy, right? Someone who's not a peer to her. Itward's not a peer. He's more of an authority slash friend slash caretaker. They can be trustworthy. He showed her this by tricking her, but that's also kind of in the spirit of, being more playful. Mr. Midnight demonstrates this for her as well. The endurance of Fran's whimsical curiosity, which has not been substituted for a cynical skepticism, which I could very easily see happening, that where she once was a playfully curious little girl, after a trauma, that curiosity takes on a cynical, sensitive, constantly under threat feeling. She's still quite whimsy, right? She's maintained that, and I think has actually developed it even further. Her problem-solving abilities have actually improved. Her cognitive balance and emotional balance have not improved, right? That is the complexity of all of this, is you really do have to respect that these happen at the same time. You can experience post-traumatic growth in some dimensions and relapse on post-traumatic stress in other dimensions. And that's why progress becomes very difficult to discuss, because it's very nonlinear. And it's hard to make sense of sometimes whether something showing up for someone means that they are overall getting worse or overall getting better. That's kind of why earlier I was like, yeah, if you're not charitable to this perspective, if you don't know anything about this, as I didn't for most of my education, then you would just think, wow, she's fucking crazy. She's getting crazier. Like, she's losing her goddamn mind. Maybe she is in some ways. And also, her mind is recovering in others. And the last thing I'll say on this point before we continue is that this is not the same thing as just your regular resilience, okay? Because that term is used as a catch-all sometimes for like someone being able to withstand difficult things. How I would describe resilience is on the sort of continuum of health here. You have things that sort of trend towards a negative direction, that have markers of illness, mental illness. And then there are things that trend towards wellness. Resilience by itself does not create wellness. It does not generate the kinds of new post-traumatic growth experiences that are not possible without having gone through a trauma, like that greater appreciation for life. It's a part of withstanding difficult things, but that's where I would put a cap on it. It is a friction, a drag on how badly negative things affect you. Someone with lots of resilience will have something bad happen to them and they will just bounce back more quickly. That doesn't guarantee that they are going to actually improve from that thing. They just won't suffer as much or for as long. So resilience is super important. You want to strengthen that as well. But something like Midnight Magic, which is both a restorative and opportunity creating skill set. And remember, that's just one of them. I would actually go in search of maybe a dozen of them. That you don't get that just with resilience. What you get is something that could have been a 9 in terms of stress starts out more at a 6. You know, and maybe that's as high as it goes for me or something. Like, that's great. You need that. But how did you get from a 6 to a 3? You keep having these 6s, but if they just stay at a 6, well, then you're very resilient, but we may not be growing from that also. That positive drift from a 6 to a 3 is where we want to develop those specialized skills. That is post-traumatic growth. That is what Fran would be learning in therapy. What she's probably going to get instead in the 1940s is, this term isn't even invented yet, so they are way, way, way behind, and they will still be behind 40 years later when this term comes into play in the 80s. She's going to get a lot of people saying that she's very, very sick and very, very ill, and they will completely skip over or disregard any positive developments because those are assumed to just be a part of the baseline. There is no wellness continuum above illness at this time. There is just like, you're healthy, and if anything is not healthy, then that's illness. And we have to sort of extract those ill creating things to get back to healthy. But there really isn't a question for a very long time. Like I said, even my modern education, I don't know, it was never brought up. It was never brought up, and I find that very strange, especially because this is not a brand new term. Like, the founding research was done in the mid-90s, but it certainly doesn't have the cultural mind share that I think it should. It didn't show up in my education. People don't talk about it in the same breath as post-traumatic stress disorder. What we are really left with is just this term resilience, which I think doesn't really describe accurately or effectively the full range of what recovery and improvement, actual health development can be. And I find that to be a great shame on behalf of both the mental health industry, but also the sort of cultural wrapping around the discussions of trauma. And I really, really, really want to nail this point, because I know it comes with contention, because it's a new idea to a lot of people, and it can just sound like, oh, so you don't want to focus on the problems, you just want to focus on the solutions. They happen at the same time. This is a dual approach that just asks an additional question. How does trauma affect us negatively, and what are the positive outcomes that can come from a trauma? They're not guaranteed. They take a lot of work and specific intervention to find, capture, and develop them. But it's possible. And so maybe that's part of my mission here, is to bring this into the cultural mind share a little bit more and continue asking the question, what makes people sick? But also ask the question, what makes people healthy? Now, doesn't that sound like a good idea, Mr. Midnight? I think Mr. Midnight likes the wellness perspective of psychology. Maybe just as much as me. Okay. Let's find out what awaits us in our little town. Oh my goodness. This is our street kitty. Haze Street. Yes, it is. Oh, it's not even really that much to interact with. That's strange. It says Haze Street. Then my house is in that direction. And here we are. This looks much more gray than I remembered. Well, I hope Aunt Grace will be happy to see me. I hope so too. The flowers are quite dead. Too bad. I hope it rains. Maybe I could plant some flowers soon. I remembered Kitty getting stuck on the plant holder. Ah, no key. What is this? A note. It says, I took the key, signed Fran. Fran? That's me. But I haven't taken the key. And I didn't write that note. This is all so confusing. What should I do now? Oh, I'm sorry, little insects. Don't run away. Oh. Yeah, sorry, friends. I can't see inside. It's very dark inside. Oh, that's the window to my room. The curtains are waving like a flag. Then my house is like a castle, like a Thyrstus castle. A closed window, no monsters hiding behind it. Okay. The door won't open without the key. I have to find it. But I don't have the key. Come here, kitty. You must climb through the window. I couldn't find the key. It seems I already took it. You already took the key, but you don't have it. That sounds very strange. Yes, it's very strange. I only found a note that I don't remember writing. But now in order to get inside, kitty, you must climb up and open the door for me. All right then. Wish me luck. What are you complaining about? You're a cat. You should be so eager for an opportunity to climb things. You can do it, kitty. Be careful. There he goes. Mr. Midnight is the best. Mr. Midnight, do you hear me? Kitty, open the door. Dr. Deern? Fran? I can't believe it. You're alive. Where were you? Gosh, yeah, her reaction to seeing him. Don't take me back or get away from me. I suppose from their perspective, she's just an escapee. And they're here to bring her back. Dr. Deern. I'm fine. Please don't take me back to the asylum. I've been looking for you for a long time. How did you escape? None of your business. That's none of your business. Leave now, please. But why are you outside the house? Well, I don't have the key, but Mr. Midnight is inside now. Gosh, it is such a fucking setup to make her sound crazy to them. He climbed through the second floor window, sir. Yeah, I'm sure he did, Fran. Mr. Midnight, isn't that your missing cat? Yes, but we found each other in the end. Sir, may I ask why you're here? I came to meet Miss Grace. I have something very important to tell her. I think she's not at home, sir. She's still so polite. Well, I may be better this way. You'll have to come with me, then. No, I won't leave my kitty again. Let's wait until he opens the door. Fran, I don't believe your cat is in the house. That's impossible. But I saw him. I just sent him in there. I'm telling you the truth. He's inside. He'll open the door in a minute. Stop it, Fran. Face reality. Your cat is dead. This guy sucks so much. You must come with me now. Oh my god. Oh my god. I hate this so much. What the fuck, Mr. Midnight? Oh, he must be trapped in there. Dude. Telling a fucking little girl that her cat is dead and then yanking her into a car and forcing her to go back to an asylum. Fuck this dude. Fuck that. Here I go shitting all over my own statements at the beginning of this playthrough. I was like, well, we have to have some nuance about these characters. Yeah, but fuck that. I've had so much, like, emotional turmoil getting my cat back that I don't want to be nuanced anymore. I want to be emotional. But yeah, I do realize that he is probably the, like, least problematic of the asylum people. Not a very high bar to clear. And, well, I cannot teleport the information and perspective of a modern age back to this man's ancient understanding of psychology. But, well, I can expect someone to be a more decent human, regardless of when they lived. You don't get a free pass just because you're old to not realize that you're a bigger person than this other human, that they're clearly scared of you, and that forcing them to do anything, well, it's not going to make them any healthier, even if you think that you know what's best for them. I'm sorry, Fran. I don't want to hurt or scare you. Wow. Kind of seems like you saw both of those things as necessary to get her in the car, though. I'm just worried about Mr. Midnight, sir. You made me leave him. Is he really alive? Of course he is, sir. Why would I lie about it? This feels so wrong. You know, Fran, I was fired from the asylum because I knew too much. I found things that I don't understand yet. I really thought you were dead. Look at these documents. Oh, he's not taking us back to the asylum. Family murder on Haze Street. The bodies were perfectly sliced. Martin and Lucia Bow Dagenhart were found early this week brutally murdered in their residence on Haze Street. The investigating officer, Marco Holma, said, "It seems that the bodies were perfectly sliced, which would cause a quick, instantaneous death. Also, there were no signs of a struggle in the house. So the victims must have been caught completely by surprise and were unable to fight back." The police interrogated Grace Dagenhart, Lucia's twin sister. Another twin, interesting. But the police didn't find any useful information. The youngest in the family, Fran Bow, was found in the woods one day after her parents' murder. She froze to death. Dear Gladys, let the newspaper know about Fran Bow. She was found in the woods, frozen to death. She ran away from home after finding about her parents' murder. Beloved Fran Bow, now free from all pain, we hope you reunite with your family in heaven. What? But I'm not dead, sir. This is all lies. I see that. I also found out that your medicine was switched. Right. We got the wrong duotine. You were given a new variant of duotine. When I looked at it in the laboratory, the levels of ectoplasmatin were too high. That can't be good. Ectoplasmatin creates a door between the conscious and subconscious mind. The problem is, if the ectoplasmatin is too high, the door will open too wide, and that can create great confusion in your brain. So, now that I've had my little emotional outburst, it's nice that he is capable of changing his mind on things, which I will always respect. I think that's a very lost element of humanity. For some reason, it seems like a greater fate than death for some people to admit that you were wrong about something, and be willing to change your mind. So where he's at right now is he realized that she's got this other version of duotine that he still thinks is maybe the cause of her delusions, like she's having greater delusions, like her subconscious and conscious are more merged than intended, or more connected than intended. And that's why all these strange things are manifesting in her perception. Like, he still thinks she's crazy, probably. Maybe what he thinks is it was published in the news that Fran died so that the asylum could, without any repercussions, perform tests on kids because no one's expecting them anyways. Who benefits from that? Well, sickos. Serious fucking sickos. And good on Dr. Dean for not being one of those. I just don't like his style of like force that he uses. It's a bit off-putting. Like, I think Fran would have been pretty reasonable to, I found out some things and come with me and I'm concerned for your safety, rather than yanking her into the car and only telling her later that he's not taking her back to the hospital. She already said, or the asylum, she said, don't take me back to the asylum. And he could have just said, I'm not. I was fired. Like, I don't know why he why he chose to do that, but I will give him some grace on changing his mind. And I mean, he cares about her, just needs a little more tact. A great confusion in my brain. I'm a bit confused, yes. But that's because of all the new things that I can see and feel. What do you mean, Fran? I can see the ultra reality, sir, and also travel to other worlds. Ultra reality? Must be an effect of the duotine, nothing more. That's not true. If I had some more medicine, I could show you. You don't need that medicine anymore. Besides, it's all in your head, Fran. Yeah, this is where he drops off a cliff for me. But that was the perspective of psychologists at the time. This whole face reality stuff. but you can see the complete blind spot to anything resembling post-traumatic growth that I was talking about. Why not ask her, what are some of these new things that you've seen? Instead of immediately just shutting it down and saying, yeah, actually, anything good that you've seen or experienced is actually a delusion. You've experienced no growth as a result of your time away from the asylum. Everything that's happened to you has just been a delusional fantasy. And you're now in a better situation now because I'm bringing you back down to the cold slab of reality where you can lay yourself bare to psychoanalysis. All in my head, you say. Then I may be able to control it. We love a Fran classic positive reframe. I mean that you're imagining things, that's all. What? I tried to tell my mother the truth, but father would harm her as well. Oh, man. Oh, this is his trauma. He's got a Kamala behind him. I don't want my father playing with his knife again. My arms hurt. Did your father hurt you with his knife, Doctor? What? Who told you that? You did. Or didn't you, sir? I haven't said anything about it. Oh my goodness, then it's true. Oh, please, let's focus. Yeah. But this thing that she just said, how does that not prove everything has actually happened? She couldn't possibly know that. And I don't find a natural way of explaining it away like, oh, she could have seen it written somewhere. Like, where would she have seen that? But Dr. Deere, this is the moment to allow her to speak on this, not say, oh, let's move on from that. I get it, though. I mean, that's a pretty awful thing that happened to him. You can see, though, what I'm talking about, that not everyone is going to experience post-traumatic growth just because they have gone through a trauma. Really, the typical representation of trauma is that it impairs people in similar ways to this, that he did not have parental figures that were kind or loving, and so he doesn't know how himself to do those things. That's a common experience. There's a different kind of experience where someone who goes through a kind of abuse like that, or a kind of neglect, and becomes one of the greatest parents ever. What's the difference? Well, that's why you can't just say trauma will always make you worse or will always make you better. It really depends on the person. It really depends on how they respond to it. Depends on who came into their life, who facilitated, whether professionally or just by being an empathetic witness or whatever. Like, our individual experiences can matter a lot. Some people experience trauma and it creates a very defined shape around that person that they have a hard time breaking out of. And their behaviors mirror the kinds of things that they were traumatized by, or the people who traumatized them. Some people, trauma creates a new shape or allows them to change the shape of their life in ways that wouldn't have been possible without it. This was a period of time where there really was no understanding of how to make the second version of that story possible. Some people got it, some people don't. Thankfully, now, we know that it's possible for anyone with the right approach and with enough time and sensitivity for the person to explore a different path. But you're not listening to me, sir. We need to find out the truth. She just tried to tell you the truth, and you ignored it. Who's not in reality now? I wonder who's behind all this. The nurses? Oswald? Who knows? I do know, sir. She just told you something that is impossible for her. I'm a little stuck on this. Like, she literally just said something to you that is impossible for her to know, and you just brushed over it. I do know, sir. It's the big black monster. Or more. He took my parents, and now he's hunting me. He wants me dead. And that's another aspect of the thing that he just showed her, the news. Like, her parents were sliced up into even sections in this sort of comical Tom and Jerry cutting a giant ham sort of way. That's like the visual that comes to mind for me. Like, what human could have done that? This series has been great for like movie references. I'm going to recommend another movie that reminds me of this. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is The Exorcist 3. The Exorcist is a great movie, an all-timer. Exorcist 2, not so much. Exorcist 3, which you don't have to have watched Exorcist 2 to watch, by the way. William Peter Blatty, the actual writer of the Exorcist novel, wanted to make a film out of his other book called Legion. And the studios were like, yeah, but you have to call it Exorcist 3 because of the branding and because we already did a second one. And so he was sort of stuck with that. But it's so good because he wrote The Exorcist and he also directed The Exorcist 3. So it was like true auteur. But there is a certain murder mystery element to it that is similar. Like, someone dies in a way that seems impossible for them to have died that way. All of the blood in their entire body drained without any sort of incision. And how do you explain that? And it's playing with the same ideas of how much of this is a fantastical representation of a mental illness, or is there truly something supernatural going on here? It's a fantastic movie. It's like truly one of my favorites. Not just like a favorite horror movie either. It's like one of my favorites of all time. Definitely watch it. If you like the vibe of Fran Bow, especially because it takes place in a hospital and is about crazy stuff like this. Oh, I wish I had stayed in Ethersta with Palantros and the Great Wizard. Well, Palantros was cool, but the wizard less so. He was nice enough, but I just... too many puzzles. What are you talking about? Please, Fran, I'm serious. I never said goodbye to Itward or Palantros, and my kitty is all alone. Again, coming back to this whole perspective, like, right now, your focus should be on listening to the things that this little girl cares about. These are at the center of her attention right now. You can sort of litigate the reality of it at some other point. Stop telling her that she's crazy. Palantros, Itward, please, Fran. As if, like, scolding her like this is just going to make her forget it all. Palantros is the doctor of Ethersta. He's a flying creature. Very fluffy, sir. And Itward is my faithful friend. He brought me home with his machine. It seems you've been living inside a fairy tale. It wasn't good all the time, sir. The twins are gone because of me. Exactly. Speak your truth, Fran. I saw myself killing Mr. Midnight, and I saw mother and father too. She's saying all the stuff that I did. How could this all have been a fantasy when half of it was pretty horrifying? The twins. What twins? The girls who were attached to each other. Attached, you say? That reminds me of the Clara and Mia case. 2 girls in the asylum claimed to see a creature named Edward or something. Oh, okay. So, is Dr. Deern in, a fantasy land? Now I'm really curious. How big is the It's All in Her Head camp? Because some statements in these scenes seem to make that perspective impossible now. Edward, I think you're misunderstanding, sir. It's Itward. Please listen to this girl. But what happened to those girls? Dr. Oswald was experimenting on them. He sewed them together. Mostly to see the reactions of the DNA. But nothing happened. That's so fucked up. That's so fucked up. Like, I literally was talking about twin studies and how we do them because they have the same DNA or near similar. And that's great for narrowing down differences and effects of things. And the twin study in this game is to sew them together to see what happens to their DNA, but like in a fucked up way. A few months later, they died and their bodies were thrown out. Wow, I guess their DNA didn't benefit from that. Oh, it's horrifying. Yeah, they just threw them in a well. That's awful, sir. You can't take me back to the asylum. Don't worry, I won't. I brought you with me so you can help me. Do what? Unless it is to get my kitty. I don't know what the bargain is for me. Maybe we can find something that will lead us to those responsible for this disgrace. Thank you, Doctor. Maybe Palantros was right about you. You're not a bad doctor. You're just an old man following the rules. No, I guess he's not a bad doctor. For the time. I just don't love some of his approach. And, well, that little scene with him and the Kamala behind him can explain, or not explain, account for some of that. Like I said, he's the best of the worst in this case. Following the rules. Well, not tonight. Here we are. But this is the cemetery, sir. What are we doing here? You'll see. Come on, follow me. Okay. I guess if you were in the It's All in Her Head camp, you could just... That's the thing. It's a self-cleansing theory, because you could just say, well, she just imagined Dr. Deern saying that. She just imagined that the things he was saying fit with her narrative. Just like she discounts other odd things and whatever. Anything that happens to Dr. Deern could be explained the same way that happened to her parents. They just were chopped up naturally, and she fantasticized it or whatever. Like, but that's why I find that such a lame story, because it literally becomes bulletproof. If you have no internal consistency to a story or to a theme like that, well, then you can always double back and say, well, nothing matters because she's imagining it. Well, I prefer not to think that nothing matters. You can see that in the way I practice therapy, and also in the way that I think about narrative. I think what we are chosen to be shown by the authors becomes so meaningless when every single element of the story can be dismissed with the same logic. I feel like if you're going to play around with what's real and what's not, then certain things have to be weighted more than others in terms of what validates that. Like if the car had wings, which is kind of irrelevant to a story or a theme, it's just something weird. Like, oh, well, that doesn't matter. That's in her head. Okay, she talks to her cat. She has a deep relationship with her cat. Well, that's also not real. Okay, she creates an entire land of fictional creatures that are kind to her and is full of interesting things for her to do and quests to go on. Okay, well, that's also not real. Like, if every little piece of it is given the same weight in terms of logic, then of course none of it matters. Wings on a car doesn't matter, but creating a fictional land of characters that are nice to her clearly means that that's something Fran cares about. And if you just double back to It's All in Her Head, then why make anything different? Like, no single individual element or collection of story beats should have to represent anything meaningful for the character or the story at all. Why? Because they're all equally dismissed by the same kind of... Yeah, but it's all fictional. And that's just how I feel about it. I'm kind of curious what you all think as well as we kind of close in on this narrative. I don't know how much more of it is left. But yeah, I sort of maintain a hybrid, which is that I think the authors want to show us certain fantastical elements because they do mean something. If none of it's real, why a Thirsta? Why not a underground sewer world? Like, it clearly means something to show us that. And I think that you can attach the elements of realism quite well to that. These things didn't start happening for Fran until she started taking duotine, which, based on what Dr. Deern said, ectoplamatin maybe supercharges like her innate abilities to see the ultra reality like it did with Leon. I don't know if you got any duotine, but I just don't think that the two ideas are incompatible with each other. And I guess it's all up in the air until we actually see the ending of the story. How and where it ends, I think, will maybe influence my opinion on this, because I think endings are the most important parts of stories. Like, not having a good ending can really and change my entire mood on something. Kind of want to check out the environment before we continue. It can't be good to press all the buttons. Nothing happens, though. I love how she did it anyways. The car's seats are quite comfortable. I'm glad it's not real leather. It's more friendly. If it was real leather, it would be like using dead bodies. Ew. The gearbox. I wonder if it has little secrets inside. It probably does, Fran. There's always little secrets inside of machinery. I never touched a steering wheel before. Father never allowed it. But now I'm on my own, so I can. Vroom, vroom! I can't press the horn. If the doctor knows I'm here, I'll be in trouble. A crowbar. I hope the doctor doesn't mind if I take it. I'm sure he won't, Fran. We may need it for something. You never know. What does she think of this statue? Wow. Hello, stone woman. Are you sleepy? You're scary. I wish I had wings like you, but I don't. Okay. To the cemetery, then. What are we doing here? Why did you take us here? This is your parents' resting place. And also yours. You didn't want to see this. Yeah, it's strange to bring us here, man. Why did you do it? I'm sorry, Fran, but things are how they are. Your parents were killed. Knowing who killed them can help us make things right. Why did you take me here, though? And also, what do you mean? What do you mean by right, sir? I mean that if we can find the guilty ones, we will have justice. I don't know if Fran cares as much at this point. Use the law to punish such behavior and prevent others from being harmed. I understand. She just wants to be home with her cat. I understand, sir. And with what did you need my help? It's a good question. To find clues and evidence, we need to open the What? Bro, what? You're gonna dig up my fucking parents? You're gonna make me do that shit? Alright, sir. I'll help, Fran. What the fuck? Maybe the Dita worms came already. Who? Anyway, we have to find shovels to dig. I'll go left and you go right. I'll see you right here in a few minutes, alright? Yes, Dr. Deern. I'll see you soon. Bro, did you brought me to my own grave and the grave of my parents. A child. To dig them up. To solve a crime. I don't know what the fuck. It's crazy. That is actually crazy. Haven't you rested enough already? Did the Dita worms take you back to the soil? Are you coming up from under the ground soon? Like a zombie. I wonder what the lady has hidden between her hands. Is it a little bug? Could be a Dita worm. I have to find a shovel to dig and see my parents. Dr. Deern thinks we can find some clues to identify the killer. Hello, Father. I know you didn't choose to leave me. Oh, this is so sad. So I'm not angry at you anymore. But I miss you a lot. I promise I'll be happy. It isn't fair to be sad all the time. I thank you for all the beautiful memories, Daddy. I'll love you forever. Jeez. Mommy, this is very hard, knowing that you're not around anymore. It really makes me feel lost in the world. But I promise I'll do my best. Be happy, Mommy. I love you so much, Mommy, and I always will. Goodbye. Fran Bow, huh? I wonder who came up with a line like that one. Now I remember seeing myself dead in the asylum. But why? Why just me? I know the big monster wants me dead. But what does the asylum have to do with the monster? God, she is so mature for her age to be able to compose thoughts like that. How could you possibly overlook that? If you were making a psychological profile of someone like Fran, I mean, if you were only interested in describing how mentally ill she is, yeah, there's a lot of evidence for that. There's a lot of evidence for that. If all you're interested in is the question, how sick is this person and what made them sick, you'll get a lot. You'll get a lot out of that. What causes her to be so emotionally mature? I think it is just wrong to assume that that is a baseline expected thing, and that what we just saw from her is not some anomaly of health and wellness, just like the way that her mind dissociates. Like, that's an anomaly, sure. Well, then so is this. How do you just expect a child to be able to do that? To be emotionally composed here, to come to this sense of acceptance so quickly. And even she recognizes that this does not remove the pain from my life. She's going to suffer more because of losing her parents, especially so young. And people who are going through a process of post-traumatic growth will still suffer from post-traumatic stress. And I think that there's a lot of danger and misconception in how we formalize discussions around mental health if we don't look at both of those things and say that they're both outcomes of the trauma she's gone through. Otherwise, you end up with where we are right now, which is a lot of stigmatism around mental health. And I think not nearly enough empathy going around for people who are going through struggles like Fran's or even Dr. Darren's. I mean, like, you can even see me, a professional, struggling to empathize with the guy sometimes. It's difficult. I'm not saying it should be easy. I am saying it should be a conversation, though. And that conversation did not happen around me when I was in school. It started to happen in my training now. And, well, I'm happy to bring it into this little corner of the internet because I think it's one worth having. Well, friends, I think I'm going to need to compose myself for digging up our parents in the next episode and ourselves. So I think we're going to pause for now. Let me know what you think about any and all of the discussions that we had today. This one was kind of chock-a-fucking-block full of interesting things to talk about. More than ever, I think it's relevant to say, be good to yourselves. And don't take it for granted that you can do that. Because being good to yourself is a choice. A lot of times it doesn't happen on accident. So, with that said, I will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.